Divine grace, Mandir Viskanabhai, Charnadavinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam ki, their most merciful Lordship, Shri Shrirakanja Vihari ki, Shri Gana, Shri Baladeva Isabhadra ki, Shri Mataji, Shri Bhanagopal ki, Shri Shri ki, Yitai Gopri. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the Lord Spirit of Shri Guruji. Gaurav. Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om 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 Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya.
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam.
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam.
Tato Jayamudirayan
Tato Jayamudirayan.
Nasta Prayashu Bhadreshu
Prayashu Abhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistiki.
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistiki.
We are reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 6, Text 2? 3, okay, Text 3. Swayambhuva
Swayambhuva.
Kaya Vitya
Kaya Vritya.
Swayambhuva Kaya Vritya
Swayambhuva Kaya Vritya.
Vartitam
Vartitam.
Te
Te.
Parambaya
Parambaya.
Vartitam Te Parambaya
Vartitam Te Parambaya.
Katam
Katam.
Chedam
Chedam.
Udasrakshi
Dasrakshi.
Katam Chedam Udasrakshi
Katam Chedam Udasrakshi.
Kale
Kale.
Prapte
Prapte.
Kalevaram
Kalevaram.
Kale Prapte Kalevaram
Kale Prapte Kalevaram.
Swayambhuva Kaya Vritya
Swayambhuva Kaya Vritya.
Vartitam Te Parambaya
Vartitam Te Parambaya.
Katam Chedam Udasrakshi
Katam Sedam Udasrakshi.
Kale Prapte Kalevaram
Kale Prapte Kalevaram.
Swayambhuva Kaya Vritya
Swayambhuva Kaya Vritya.
Vartitam Te Parambaya
Vartitam Te Parambaya.
Katam Chedam Udasrakshi
Katam Sedam Udasrakshi.
Kale Prapte Kalevaram
Kale Prapte Kalevaram.
Swayambhuva Kaya Vritya
Swayambhuva Kaya Vritya.
Vartitam Te Parambaya
Vartitam Te Parambaya.
Katam Chedam Udasrakshi
Katam Sedam Udasrakshi.
Kale Prapte Kalevaram
Kale Prapte Kalevaram.
Swayambhuva Kaya Vritya.
Swayambhuva Kaya Vritya
Vartitam Te Paramvaya.
Vartitam Te Parambaya
Katham Sedam Udasrakshi.
Katam Chedam Udasrakshi
Kale Prapti Kalevaram.
Kale Prapte Kalevaram
Swayambhuva Kaya Vritya.
Swayambhuva Kaya Vritya
Vartitam Te Parambaya.
Vartitam Te Parambaya
Katam Sedam Udasrakshi.
Katam Chedam Udasrakshi
Kale Prapte Kalevaram.
Kale Prapte Kalevaram Swayambhuva Kaya Vritya Vartitam Te Parambaya Katam Chedam Udasrakshi Kale Prapte Kalevaram Swayambhuva
Swayambhuva.
O son of Brahma
O son of Brahma.
Kaya under what condition
Under what conditions?
Vritya occupation Vartitam was spent
Was spent.
Te you Param
Param.
after the initiation
After the initiation.
via
Via.
duration of life
Duration of life.
Katam
Katam.
how Cha and Idam this Udasrakshi
Dasrakshi.
did you quit
Did you quit?
Kale in due course Prapti, having attained. Kalevaram, body. Swayambhuvakaya vritya vartitam te parambaya katam chedam udarakshi kale prapte kalevaram. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O son of Brahma,
O Son
how did you pass your life after initiation? And how did you attain this body, having quit your old one in due course? Please repeat. O son of Brahma,
O Son of Brahma,
how did you pass your life
how did you pass your life
after initiation?
after initiation?
And how did you attain this body,
How did you attain this body,
having quit your old one
having quit your old one
in due course?
in due course?
O son of Brahma, how did you pass your life after initiation? And how did you attain this body, having quit your old one in due course? Purport. Shrinarad Muni, in his previous life, was just an ordinary maidservant's son. So how he became so perfectly transformed into the spiritual body of eternal life, bliss, and knowledge is certainly important. Sri Vyasadeva desired him to disclose the facts for everyone's satisfaction. Now here we are seeing as well, and just like would be considered a normal conversation, right? But tell me about your past life and see, what do we know about our past life and how we came. So this is realizing on the part of Vedavyas the knowledge of Narad Muni, of his own self and his previous existence. And this is what evidence is the soul carries with it. Once you become a servant of Krishna, you carry with you the knowledge of Krishna. But of course that means we've grounded ourselves in the principles of Krishna consciousness, and we've been faithful every day chanting Krishna's names and having the experience of Krishna consciousness that will carry us continuously. We've been talking about how in the dream state, the mind takes us wherever it wants to go, basically. So this is why it's so important for us to be training it throughout the day, to constantly be using our minds for the advancement of spiritual consciousness. And that means then with our relationships, our friendships with each other, we're going to be constantly talking about Krishna and sharing about those pastimes that give one spiritual bliss. They give us spiritual bliss. Narad Muni, here as explained, he is being addressed as the son of Brahma. And yet, he's also having been born of a maternal mother, of a mother. So this is quite a mystery, you might say. Because it would seem, coming from Brahma's body directly, he would be of a much superior, the body itself would be of a much superior form than that which would come out of the body of a woman later on in his experience or his journey through the material universe. There's a verse in the Upanishads that talks about a person who is now dwelling in this material universe, taking up devotional service as their life's activities, and that they could go on doing that forever. And one might read across that as though it were pertaining to some other people. already done that, right? It doesn't pertain to us. And yet, it is revealing to us that a life given over to spiritual truths is going to be experienced by the soul who has set itself upon that path. Now, it's going to be experiencing eternity. So, it begins with our reading about eternal pastimes that Krishna has taken part in, preaching about those. What do we say? Human life is eating, sleeping, mating, defending, right? But a devotee is eating, sleeping, and preaching. Yeah. So, it makes life easy. And see, too, when we get to a stage of development where we can see the futility of all these endeavors people are making just to try to exist, just to have a roof over their head, just to have food on the table, it's a tough life. You know, the extreme ends that people put themselves through just to provide the basic necessities of life. And so, as Brahmins, normally a person who has surrendered to Krishna, they've given up on all those non-functional, dysfunctional, we would call them, processes of existing within this material world, trying to find happiness in that way. But today, we want people who are finding happiness in that way, to show themselves faithful in that way, serving into the general public, taking part in social aspects of the rest of society, and engaging in those activities that we are saying is the material energy. Because all those activities, I don't know what you're going to find. I used to sell water, right? Pretty harmless job. But who's buying the water, who you're selling it to, you're enabling. You're enabling. You give them the ability to carry out by that facilitation that you give to a soul to perform their daily functions. You're enabling, to some degree, of course. And in every aspect of our human life that we see to be functioning as human beings. We're doing that to be able to help other human beings function in some way or another, right? So it's like giving to the poor as well. If he goes down to the bar and uses that for a drink, you've contributed to his sinful activity. So the same with all these jobs that are functioning for the ability that all those people are finding to be able to perform sinful activity in this world. We contribute to taking a part with that. That's why it's so helpful, even necessary, as described by the scriptures, is necessary for us to contribute at least some part of that towards the development of a spiritual consciousness, and which Krishna consciousness gives us the most, you could say on one hand it's the most easy function of simply introducing people to books and then trying to put into their hearts the desire to want to read and study about the books by Krishna Katha, by them finding you to be a superior kind of person than all their other people they're forming friendships with, because you have eternal truths that are not common to the ordinary, quote-unquote, human being. Because the way man is functioning within society, none of it is based upon the idea that we are eternal beings. And with our bodies seeing everybody die, like Yudhishthira was asked after he had left his body what the most amazing thing was he had seen on the earth, and that everyone is seeing death every day. It has been estimated that a child, by the time he reaches 13 years old, he's witnessed about 3,000 deaths or murders. See, especially today with new technology, with television, watching murders in movies. And so it becomes the passing of death, and the value of life itself becomes degraded. Lord Buddha, his father preserved him from society. He had not seen death until he became of a mature age. In his teens, at least. I'm not sure exactly what age he was. But when he first saw death and aging, he was amazed because his father had protected him from that. And, see, the soul, to the soul, death and dying is a completely foreign thing. And to us, you know, again, having witnessed it so many times, and then when we witness it personally, with own family attachments that we have, it becomes a ripping of the heart, isn't it? You lose somebody that you're very close to and dear to. But now, how does Krishna feel about us coming here? That's what we want to know. That's what Krishna consciousness is, because we're going to know God's love for us by knowing the mind of God. And this is what Bhagavatam is revealing also. See, this is a question being posed by God himself. So when you come to the place where you can have a conversation with God, he's going to pull out of you that inner knowledge that you have had about him, with him, from him, by him, for him, to him, in him. Forever and ever. This relationship we're now being made aware of, that we have now with Krishna. We're being aware of that we have had it eternally. It's got to be restored. Srila Prabhupada says they come to remind you of who we are, of the things we need to be doing in order to remember who we are and the place Krishna is bringing us back to. And it's more a development of our consciousness towards Krishna than it is actually the outward involvement or even perfection of all these outward things we're thinking. Because when we see by example of devotees who love Krishna so much, they're so overwhelmed by the love in their heart that they're experiencing for Krishna, they forget all about what they're doing in the material world. Throw the banana out and offer the peel. And Krishna takes it with cherishing it because he sees the love of his devotee being moving him. And that's the love we can be experiencing with Krishna all the time. And that all of these activities are meant to bring us to eventually. See, because we've been so conditioned. When I didn't come to the movement till I was 33 years old. And I don't know what my life, if I had a human life, probably. Most of us have been humans for 7 lives before coming to Krishna consciousness. So that means how many habits our mind has formed before coming to Krishna consciousness. How many times we've engaged in activities that we have taken as the norm by the particular societies we've been born into. And heaven knows, not all societies are God-fearing societies or God-loving societies. We're very fortunate to have at least been born into a environment where we have the freedom to be able to practice what we believe in, and this as well we can be thankful for, that we have the ability even to go out in public, stand on a soapbox, as they say, and just preach whatever, which used to be done a lot by people who were seeing the failures of society. And what as well, when we look at the city environment in which Ram was, Ayodhya, Ram was the king of, the prince of, the king of, then we see the environment described to such extent you cannot help but think, wow. Just the setting itself was so perfect. Even to breathe the air there is describing the types of flowers that were abundant. Flowers that we don't even have on this planet, even in some cases. And so, just by living in such an environment, one gains an experience of health that wouldn't otherwise be realized by societies who are living for themselves. And that's what basically the whole society of the world, the societies of the world are based on, the advancement of the individual. I, me, and mine, the false ego, the I, me, and mine. And so, with Krishna consciousness, when we come together, which we used to be together all the time, every day, 24/7. But at least we can, when we are together, realize that we are sharing a common cause together. We're all sharing basically the same belief system, and knowing that we have a higher purpose than just eating and consuming things in this world, and seeing that as our pleasure. You know, a lot of devotees do. The only reason they come here is to eat, like Krishna says, I just come here to eat. And then he goes in the pot room and does all pots. But it is because our minds have been conditioned that way. When we look at the animal kingdom, what are they doing? All day long, they just eat. And chased after their mates. That's all they do, and that's all we did. And that's all we've been doing for millions of lives. So here the value is being brought up by Veda Vyas on what kind of a life would lead one to the result now, the kind of life that Veda Vyas is now living. And that's the kind of life Krishna wants to make available to all of us as well. Be preachers, go through the universe. Unlimited, with unlimited abilities. Isn't that? Narad Muni has that. If he's going to tell you his previous lives, you can know he's endowed with knowledge, this soul. See, these advanced souls, they take birth when they want, for the reason that Krishna sends them to take birth. And as we continue to follow instructions of the spiritual master and let our lives be controlled by the events that will involve us in, then automatically that will come to us. That purpose for being, that purpose for getting up in the morning, purpose for putting on our shoes, purpose for driving here, purpose for going to work, purpose for continuing our existence, everything will become very clear. And because it is the eternal purpose that Krishna has empowered us now to be enabled to take part in, you're not going to forget it. This is what Narad Muni is going to reveal by his knowing his past life. See? They talk about memory by being able to memorize some words. But real memory comes from our relationship with Krishna. That's memory. As Krishna says, I am remembrance. Remembrance of Krishna, that's what he's talking about. And when we forget, we're forgetting Krishna. So what does forgetfulness get us? Right back into the material world. If we think it's for us. That's what's so valuable about the temple life itself, originally meant to be that we were all working with each other for the same purpose. Now, when you go out in the society, it's hard to remember that when you're also performing a function for them. Not that it's not allowed, not that it's not keeping you from being able to reach perfection. It's not that at all. But it's just the limitations. You're not going to be doing 100 books every day if you're working at a job. I mean, it just makes sense, right? But the movement gets more promoted than any other activity by the selling of books, by the distribution of books, and by the preaching to big crowds, of course, which now the web offers us the ability to do. But there are little ways that we can add the distribution of books to our lives that I've been suggesting along the while too. You know, you go to the hospitals, you go to the funeral homes, where people would most be put in a place to want God, you know. And then it doesn't have to be a complete book. It doesn't have to, you know, just these little, maybe a little business card that has the Maha Mantra on it and an invitation. You're always welcome to Krishna's house, something like that, you know. Just make up some nice business cards and give them on the back little map where we are in Detroit. Boss, they got the Maha Mantra, fixes them without knowing that they're carrying it in their billfold now if you give them a business card. For life, they got a password to get into Vaikuntha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare. This is Krishna's password. Password he's giving all of humanity to open his doors to his house. Yeah, that's what the Maha Mantra is, the door, the opening of the door to the Vaikuntha experience, the Vaikuntha experience. In your mind, you can be hugging Krishna all day long for everything he's done, for everything he's made. He's made all of this the simplest way as possible within the circumstances, you know, best as can be done under the circumstances we've been born into. But we can be very thankful also that we have such an easy process to be able to engage in that removes us from all the tensions and grief. When you chant, doesn't your mind become relieved of all the anxieties that the world has? Your mind becomes concentrated, centered upon love as God is supposed to be. This giving of oneself, please Krishna, surrender me, give me the ability to be moved by your spiritual energy. That is the eternal energy that within him is revealed by the thoughts of his own mind as well in Shrimadbhagavatam, by the questions he will have for you. He's going to say, how'd you get here? That's what he's asking Narad Muni. How'd you get here? How are your family members doing? And they must have been greatly endowed with knowledge to have given you the knowledge that you have now. Or how did you get that knowledge to get here? Krishna wants to know about us. He's super soul, but the place he takes his super soul is a different thing he has to occupy his mind with when he's in Vrindavan with the gopis. He can't be thinking about us when he's with the gopis, can he? Thinking about me? No, but it's super soul he is. And he's sharing and he's giving me ability. Krishna says, I am the ability in man. So he gives us the ability to know how to take care of ourselves. He gives us the ability by association to know how to advance. And if we don't recognize the need for that, that's the difference between the development of the false ego and I, me, and mine. What's that song Frank Sinatra sang? I did it my way, which everybody does. That's not a great accomplishment. And that, in fact, is the problem. We're doing it our way. That's the problem. So, when we learn how to do it Krishna's way, then Krishna's way can become our way. But when we do it Krishna's way, then we all can work together for the same cause. If I do it my way, I got my plan, you got your plan, he has their plan, they have their plan. And nobody's together on it. And so nothing gets as perfect as it could be if everybody worked on the same thing. The idea, what was it? If everybody jumped up at the same time, it would move the earth out of place. There are beings that could move the earth out of place. And this is also what's being revealed when Varaha saves the earth from the threat of Hiranyaksha. That means this soul that Krishna has empowered has gained somewhat of a competitive ability to give God a contest, right? How could Krishna require himself to be there to save the earth if this soul hadn't gained the ability to put the earth in its dire straits that it was being submerged in that causal milk ocean? And that causal milk ocean, that's what the demigods live off of, that somaras, right? They live off of that, but it makes them intoxicated with strength. We get intoxicated with poison that makes us dizzy and can't do anything. Somaras is completely the opposite of that. Drunkenness means they could go out and move one building from one place to another. Is practically like that. Okay? Bhima drank 6 glasses. He slept for 6 days and gained the strength of 60,000 elephants by drinking 6 glasses. His father gave it to him. Now, see how we think of that as something amazing, isn't it? Prabhu, this Maha Mantra is giving us the ability to know eternity and to be able to be in a place where that body that we are inhabiting is eternal. That's greater than this Somaras. Think about that. See, with the Somaras, they drink it on a regular basis. I don't know how often it's required, but they have a lifespan there equivalent to about 37,000 of our years. Same span the earth goes around that amount of time. And as human beings, we have to admit, my God, that's a long time. But it's nothing compared to the eternity. That 37,000 years in a heavenly planet is like the snap of a moment. What we are being given in this Maha Mantra, what is contained in the fulfillment of the purpose of the Maha Mantra, which is what we take into our hands. Every time we take a book and offer it to someone, we are giving to them the life-changing moment of their life that can turn them from destitution of eternally enslaved in the prison of the material universe and freed to the path of Vaikuntha that leads to the eternal dwelling. where we never have to leave again. Never have to leave. Never have to be subjected to pain, suffering, old age, disease, death, none of this stuff. Prabhu, you have the treasure, the greatest treasure the universe has to offer in these books, in the knowledge contained in these books, in knowing Super Soul, in you. He's the one who is the treasure. And knowing him, yes. Krishna. 2 syllables, and no other syllable is able to produce the same experience as that Krishna, taking his name in our hearts to be that soul name that is closest to all life. All life is manifesting by the breath of Krishna. And we have been given by that very one whose breath is all this, the knowledge of who he is, the relationship we can have with him all day long, every day, forever and ever and ever. Never have to forget Krishna again. Joy. So whatever endeavor we make in life now is going to be, as long as we have in our hearts to fulfill Krishna's mission, to fulfill Krishna's purpose, then we will have that highest purpose and that best ability. By the purity of our lives, as much as we're giving ourselves over to become purified, the strength of that purity will be the strength we empower others with when we give it to others. So, it is by Srila Prabhupada's purity than any, and it's still going on. Can you imagine if in your life you had been responsible for the opening of 100+ temples in this world, all of which is involving hundreds, if not thousands of people whose lives have been transformed into a glorious experience of life, happy, go-lucky life, wonderful, pleasing, love-experiencing life. And that's what Srila Prabhupada did for all of them. Yeah. We are very fortunate to have the company of such a one. We think of him as having passed, but he's still empowering devotees. He'll enter your dream life because of his mercy, because of his kindness. Srila Prabhupada can't find the words sometimes to describe his greatness, what he's done for us. What contribution he's made in the world that so few actually recognize as how much a contribution it is that Srila Prabhupada gave to the world. Yeah. This is the thing I fear. I break down because I don't know, I'm sentimental. But every quality we have in life, we turn it towards Krishna, at least it can be used for some better good than what my previous sentimentalism was towards, people I had lost. But now I turn it towards Krishna. It's gradually becoming love. And love was the aim I've been having since I found Christ, knowing that principle of God in us. Since then, I've been wanting to know what love, real love, pure love is. And I've always believed that all of these writings that have been put into humans' language is for the benefit of mankind to come to that place with God of knowing what love is. It appears to me that every effort having been made by every description given by mankind about God's interaction with human beings has been Because God wants human beings to be able to be returned to a place where there's no more death and dying. Return to that eternal dwelling. In one sense, we were born out of time because we missed Lord Chaitanya. But in another sense, we've been born at the most opportune time to carry on his work. So, he's leaving so much more to be done as well. The more sinful the world becomes, the more work there needs to be done to help transform the minds and lives of those who are in this world for a different purpose than what we are realizing our purpose is here. In breaking that false ego, the most subtle, the most finite, the most unidentified, and the most difficult to break through, that false ego covering of the universe. And that's the covering that we help contribute to as we live our lives for ourselves and for our own pleasure. And then the suffering that we experience because of that causes us to create more of it. More karma. Then we curse God and we blame this thing, blame that thing, and then we don't recognize it. So we have done it. We brought ourselves to this place by our activities. And somehow, Krishna has found it within his liking to bring us here. So we can appreciate that. Even when we didn't see good in ourselves, somehow Krishna saw good within us. But he is the good in us. He's the one. What was that spoken by Christ? Why do you call me good? None are good. He said, none are good. But he in us is good. The God in us. That gives us that little small voice when we think to do wrong. And then gives us the idea that there's better things to think about. I know here, when I've lost a friend or somebody leaves their body, and I get that sad feeling, moroseness, sometimes Srila Prabhupada would call it morose. When I'm chanting, and sometimes it happens even thinking about things I've read about Krishna has done. It won't take but just a couple of minutes longer, and Krishna will give you some soothing thought to ease your mind. If you stay in that mood of surrender to Krishna, the sakur, as it's called, the soothing of the soul, it can only be given by Krishna. It is what we are looking for. It is what we're longing for in the relationships with each other. But it is really the closeness that only God himself, Krishna, can give to us that we're really looking for. But it seems strange for me as a man to be talking about intimacy with God as a man. Isn't it like it's out of place? But then when we read the scriptures, we see that this place of surrender that we're being brought to, which all souls ultimately are naturally, we are all servants of the Supreme, and in that position makes us of a feminine nature towards Krishna. Automatically, the soul, by its having come from the Supreme, subservient to the Supreme, takes the place of servant to the Supreme, puts itself in the feminine place in relationship to the Supreme. That's how it can be said. There's only one male. Really. There's only one male. Yeah, Krishna is the male. The only one. He He's the only one everything is coming from. So analyze that we're already female. We don't have to become female. We already are. And so if we think relationship with Krishna in love would be something that we think of ourselves as having with a woman, it's not the same at all. Because we are in the fallen state to not know what love is. Because we are thinking love is somehow pampering these physical bodies or giving some tingling sensation to the body or something of that nature, you know. And then to satisfy us when we need something, then you're there, and that's not love. It's conditional. That's conditional. But love is not. That is pure love is not. And so that's where we are being given the ability by Krishna to come into the state of unconditional love. That's where we want, and that's what is explained by Bhaktivinoda and all the Swamis as being the highest goal to aim for. That which we will be willing to do, no matter what the circumstances may be, in order to continue our service. But I'll be the first one to say, I hate pain, I hate suffering, and I don't want to go through any more of it than I already have. And I long for the pleasure of being able to read every day, for the pleasure of being able to have friends who share the same viewpoints on the conclusions of philosophy, to strengthen that I already know is true. Yeah. But just like a sword, you strengthen a sword with another sword or a piece of steel, the same way it is. And as we share our association with each other, we strengthen our convictions and our ability to give that we know to be true to others. That's the value of association too, because people out on their own, and my heart goes out to like my friend. You know, if you don't go along with what most of quote-unquote Christianity is believing to be quote-unquote their absolute truth, it's very difficult. And then they stop going to church, don't they? A lot of people. Justifiably, because they're not finding in their so-called circles of association that which is satisfying to the soul. They're finding gossip circles and card-playing circles and bingo circles. Isn't it? Catholic Church, that's what it is. Saturday night, spaghetti dinner. Eat all you want. Gorge yourself.
8:52, bingo.
We say it too, filled to the neck. But see, there's a difference between prasadam. Even though, think about it. We anticipate prasadam, don't we? I mean, you look forward to, when you get hungry, it's time to eat, isn't it? So there's anticipation for a devotee. He's looking for Krishna. Prasadam and Krishna. What Krishna glances upon favorably, it's not different. Becomes in his eyes. What God blesses, what does it say? Let no man cut asunder. What God says is good. Then what man says about what God says is good, who says bad, that's blasphemy. That's blasphemy. So, what a devotee takes as prasadam, that's actually a spiritual desire. That's his desire for Krishna. That's love, too. Krishna transforms our desire for food to desire for him by turning it into prasadam. See? So we're not lusting after food even if you're hungry for prasadam. It's not lust the same way it is when we're lusting for ourselves versus lusting to the glorification of God and the value that food, how much more valuable that food becomes when it has the ability to give the conscious experiencer of the food, the consciousness of the cook that was love for God. That's the difference. Everything being done out there is being done for the individual that's doing it. And everything being done in our kitchens is being done for Krishna. And that makes it the difference. Now, let's say everybody was realized, self-realized. Then they would be doing it, if they were doing it for a person, just like we offer obeisances. I'm not offering to you, the person, I'm offering to Krishna, the super soul in you. In effect, it's the same as offering to Krishna. But you're not God. But the body contains Krishna's there. Just like a dictionary. Not a holy book. But if Krishna's name is in it, it becomes a holy book. Yeah. So you become a holy being as well. They are saintly souls that take these words of God as words to live by, words to give other people life by. Yeah. You're the real doctors of society who bring Krishna's truths to the society, who bring life to the dead, who bring back from the dead those souls that are living dead. As long as their goal is to win a hand at cards, poker, or gambling, or win a bingo. My mother had a bingo for $10,000 and she didn't call it in time. Too late. Gone. The thing that would make her happy made her sad. She didn't take it. She was mad. But see, that's what the happiness of the material world brings. You get it and then you lose it. And you can lose it just as easy or even easier. Isn't that a lot easier to lose it than it is to get it? You can lose it like that. It might take you a whole year to make it. If you're gambling. Yeah. So that is eternal isn't lost like that, see? And Krishna proves that just with this discussion of his devotee, think about it. He's proving. Tell him how I gave you eternal life. That's what he's telling everybody. Just tell him. Tell everybody. Tell everybody that will read this for the next at least 10,000 years. Right? That's how long Kali Yuga is going to last. With still having Shrimadbhagavatam to be able to appreciate and read and know Krishna by. We have about 10,000 years left. We want to get out by that time, right? Any comments, any questions, any realizations?
You know, you said something earlier about what Srila Prabhupada went through establishing all those temples.
Yeah.
When I was like 12 years old, my parents built a house out in the country.
Wow.
And just through that one process, they almost got divorced.
Oh.
And I've also heard that building a house from the ground up is like one of the most stressful things you could possibly do.
I did it in Arizona, my wife and I. Her
And
plans.
It's one decision after
Exactly.
another. And
I
they
put
all
the plumbing
pile up.
in, I put the,
So imagine just that one house, what you went through for the one
Yeah.
house. Now multiply that times 100.
Yeah.
Because every state has its process, every state has its taxing, every state has its permits, its insurance requirements.
Yeah.
It's not just, hey, I want that building, let's move in.
Yeah.
This takes
Yeah.
months of
And
preparation
lots of
for
people who are willing.
place.
Exactly. See, there's appreciation there. Now, all this is glorification of Srila Prabhupada. All of this is glorification of, similar to Narad Muni. See, you are glorifying Krishna's servant, just like Krishna is glorifying his servant. When he says, Narad Muni, tell me how you did it. How did you do that? You know, he's God, and yet he says that to his servant. How did you do that? Yeah. And so, yeah, we have every right to ask Srila Prabhupada, how did you do that?
At his age.
At his age,
My dad
no,
was,
that.
they were in like their 40s
Exactly.
when that happened.
69, and he came just to step foot out here at 69 years old.
Today's my 61st birthday, and I'm tired.
Wow.
I'm tired.
I had 75 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah, or a week ago, 8th. God, any other comments, questions, realizations? It's wonderful to be, taking part in this movement that is really, I think, as far as I've seen, affecting people in such a positive way. I've read books on positive thinking, all these things, and try to apply it to the world. It doesn't work as well as Christian consciousness does, And the Maha Mantra just keeps you constantly in a positive mood, attitude.
I can't tell you how many books I read trying to learn how to meditate before I came to the Maha Mantra.
Yeah.
To no avail.
Yeah.
Just wasting my time reading it and still being just as confused as
Yeah.
I was when
And
I
you know
started.
why? While you're pointing this out, I'm getting the realization. See, these writers, these authors, in heart, a lot of them are moved by the right intentions, but they don't have the connection. And so, even though their intentions may be right, ultimately they want some reward for it. And that comes with it too. So you get that which clouds over. They might give you even the same mantra. Srila Prabhupada says, even they have the Maha Mantra with Mayavadis. And because they're giving it with their own ends, it doesn't produce the same result. Because they believe they can become God with that. Right. We have just a very thin line between being Krishna and being Krishna's representative. Because Krishna gives them the full freedom he has. When you can take up your life and put it down when you want, when you can remember when you were born, and remember and know why you're going to be born. That's what Krishna is doing, isn't it? And that's what he's giving to his devotees the ability to do as well. He says, I am the ability in man. So what ability Krishna is in us? Wow. Is that us anymore? It's not us anymore. He's the ability we have. But we continue to credit ourselves. And when we accredit ourselves with that, we limit ourselves to our own abilities. But if we say Krishna's the doer, now, he's the limit. He's the limit. Krishna's the limit. That means there's no limit. What does it say even in the Bible? All things are possible to those who love God. And all things work together for good to those who love God as well. Wow, we got a great life to be thankful about it. Yes. Jai Shrimadbhagavatam. Jai Shrimadbhagavatam.